So, let's talk about the Duskbloods. Imagine Nightreign with a Bloodborne aesthetic, Nightrein's movement mechanics, Bloodborne's PvP. That's kinda how I can describe it. There isn't any single genre that I have personally played that I can honestly point to and say, that's it. Like, it's definitely not a Souls game per se. It's definitely not a Souls-like. It doesn't really have one specific genre, I would say. I don't know, maybe I'll change my mind in the future. But yeah, before we get into it, if you're new here, I'm Mikey. I've recently been no life in Nightreign. I've been playing FromSoftware games since Dark Souls 1 first released. We try to keep it positive gaming over here, but there are times, like you all I can imagine, where I will inevitably mold. So annoying, stupid Batman. Fuck you, Bat. Forever and a day, like, I wish the whole of your family genetic tree is wiped out. If you enjoy the content, feel free to drop a sub and help a brother out. It is free, unlike
these nuts.
So far, the game has been 100% excitement and fun. Of course, it's new, so it's going to be. My main concern about FromSoftware's latest titles, I mean all their titles really, and concerned rightly so, was the netcode issues we've all experienced in these previous FromSoftware titles. Elden Ring being the most recent with PvP, and the PvP in Elden Ring has always left a sour taste in my mouth, despite Elden Ring PvP being my favourite PvP game ever. And anyone who spends well over 2,000 hours playing Elden Ring PvP should have a good understanding of its ups and downs, which essentially will allow me to talk a little bit about how I feel about the PvP. But, and I say this, and I'm not saying this in jest, some of you may not believe me, but Duskbloods PvP doesn't feel bad.
You lying?
No, just want to throw it out there that it isn't like FromSoftware PvP. It's completely different. It is essentially just a mash fest. Like, if you mash, you win. If the player doesn't try and get out of the way of your mash, they'll lose. And so far, from the matchups, I would say that the ranged characters like your Sniper Layla are just going to be well overpowered. There's not really much you can do about it. It is just a mash fest. Now, I think there can be a high skill ceiling with the game, although I don't think most players will ever reach that kind of skill ceiling, because it's very, like I say, mash R1 for the win, use your range attacks for the win, go in for the kill. So I don't think the high skill ceiling will ever really get reached by many players, but I can see there being a high skill ceiling to this game, specifically in the PvP side of things. Connection wise, it doesn't feel terrible. Like, the first couple of runs that I had, I actually forgot to plug my LAN in because I was moving the Switch from upstairs to downstairs, so it was on wireless, and it didn't feel that bad. Despite FromSoftware PvP being notoriously bad on, like, wireless connections, the PvP, it didn't feel terrible. I think there was, like, one time where I felt a major desync. I jumped over Zorkinit's human missile, and even though I was well out the way of the hitbox, it still hit me. Whether that's just, you know, some jank with the game, I don't really know, but it felt like a desync to me. Like, it felt like it hit me when it shouldn't have. But other than that, there weren't any moments really where I thought, wow, this is terrible. For the Duskbloods game itself, most of you have probably already watched Ouroboros' video or Varti's video, and there isn't really much else for me to add, but generally, you drop into the map. There's only one map available in the network test so far. You run around the map for the first phase trying to get super strong. You can either obviously, like, take out trash mobs, fight smaller mini-bosses. I guess you could call them, like, formidables, but then you can head to, like, trespassers, which are a little bit, you know, more of a meatier boss. In these trespasser fights, you can automatically call in players from around the map, or you can just jump straight into fisticuffs with other players and, you know, start enacting the glorious game that is PvP. Personally, I don't really see that much of a reward for the PvP early game. Obviously, you will be forced into PvP throughout the game, though it's inevitable. There are certain sections where you can't avoid it, and then the final fight itself will always be a PvP trio, which I'm not too sure about at the moment. The idea of it is very fun, and the way it works is very fun. It's just, if you happen to drop into that with two players that were generally kind of working together in the run, they're going to team up on you, and you literally do not stand a chance, especially if it's two ranged players like Sniper Leia or the Bloodhound Jan, which can just spam his fire. I just got basically destroyed in one. So, how I would recommend a run, first thing you want to do is run around and find a kin. You can find these by, if you look up, you'll see like a golden sigil in the sky. Go to these and you can call in a kin. I think the kins are connected to each one of the Bloodspawn. Like, I think you get a specific kin for a specific Bloodspawn, or at least every time I pick this specific Bloodspawn, it gives me the same kin. Once you've got your kin, I would run around trying to find trash mobs and then taking out like mini bosses. Obviously, along the way, if you can find things that are going to give you virtue, but there are certain items or like certain like POIs, I guess you would call them, where if you basically take whatever the item is, it can give you Bloodspawn. You can also get Bloodspawn from defeating the enemies and bosses. Then I would jump straight into some Trespassers. These are like, kind of like the formidables you get in Nightreign. Take these out. These you can call in other players from the map to take these out. You will get way more rewards, and you'll also get like a dormant power, I guess we'll call it, which can be anything from like max HP, you know, more defense, blood loss on your weapon, stuff like that. And then at the very end, you can just run around either finding virtue spots, or you can start your PvP with other players. Now, at the end of all the phases, you will be sent to a ritual site. This is essentially where you have to go at the very end, and if you've got enough of the requirements, like enough virtue and stuff like that, you survive into the next phase. In the next phase, it's basically just the same as phase 1, except some events can happen, like you can find these star crystals. You can try and keep the star crystal, and people are going to try and kill you to take them off you. Superior Trespassers, which are just essentially like harder versions of the Trespassers, can spawn. You can obviously take these out with people on the map. And then again, at the end of the day, you have a ritual site where is really where the fun begins. It's where all of the players will essentially go to, and this is where you'll start your PvP. Now, as long as you have the right requirements, you will still go through to the next round, even if you die at this section. I think it's only a certain amount of virtue you get called, and then at the very end of this day, you move into the phase 3. Phase 3 is basically just more of the same of phase 2. You can get events, you can fight super Trespassers, you can obviously partake in PvP now, or you can just go around looking through different like virtue sites, different like kind of like quests, I guess you would call them. But essentially, you can go there, take out a boss, get more virtue, or you can just, there'll be like a little throne, I guess you would call it, and on the throne you can just pick up an item and it'll give you virtue. And then at the end of the day, you're back to the ritual site again, where inevitably you will partake in PvP. Again, if you have the right requirements, you'll go through to the last round. I think it's top 3 virtue go through to the final round, which is essentially the place where you can win. This is where 3 players will be transported to a little arena, and this is where you start your PvP that you can't avoid. Now, as for the PvP, I promise you, if you give it a chance, you will enjoy it. You got to remember that it's just a game. Nothing in this game can hurt you in real life, and if you enjoy it, try and embrace it a little bit, you will find it more fun. Because inevitably, you are going to have to do PvP, you are going to want to play PvP, and you are going to have to try hard a little bit to actually win. Now, the good thing about this game is I don't think it's very like try-hardy. I think it's just full of chaos, so it's more chaos. You got to be a little bit smart to not obviously just walk into attacks, but generally it's just more fun than it is serious. So yeah, once phase 3 is over, you are transported to an area that I like to call the Champions Gulag. The arena itself isn't great because you can just get teamed up on and absolutely destroyed by range attacks, and there's no cover really. There's like a centerpiece on the one map that I've played where you can hide behind, but if there's 2 players, you've got no chance of hiding, and you will just get spammed to death. And the Layla's Gatling gun, you basically can't avoid it. Pair that with like the Albert's Fire, not the Albert's Fire, Bloodhound Jan's Fire, and basically you'll just lose. So it's quite difficult to actually play, although it all depends on your matchups entirely. Like the one time where I did get absolutely destroyed by range attacks, I was using Tranglan, I think her name is, and she clearly has no poise and she just gets staggered by everything. Despite it being my best run prior to this duel, I still lost because of range spam. So I do think a lot of the skill will be taken out of it by just like range spam and stuff like that. But yeah, the arena itself, it's not amazing, but it is still very fun. If you don't go into this with like a serious mindset, I think you'll find it fun. In the arena, obviously you duke it out like absolute chads, and if you are a real one, you'll enter this arena with all 3 Zorks zorking it, and this might be my favourite part of the game. It's just so much fun. A few things to be said though is you need to learn to play unlocked. If you want to be good at this game, there are of course moments where you'll need to lock on, but you'll have to learn how to lock off and keep your head in a swivel, because like I say, you will just get paired up on, teamed up on, focused on by other players, and they will just obliterate you together. Which obviously leads back to the game itself. Like if you have 2 players that are generally working together throughout the run, because you can just pair up with someone even if you don't have an alliance with someone. Obviously friendly fire's off so you can still hit each other, but if you both are along the same mindset of just pairing up to take out bosses, you can then team up on someone at the end of the game, which obviously would make it very unfair. So yeah, there is some things in the game that I think FromSoftware will need to address like that. I don't know how they'll address it, but yeah, you will get teamed up on if, you know, you're fighting two players that generally were working together throughout the game. My honest opinion, though, about the game from the few hours I've played, because, you know, I've only played a few hours, literally the first network test, I would say it's a solid 6, 7 out of 10. Yep, throw a joke in there if you want. If you're into this sort of thing, it's no Elden Ring, it's not Bloodborne, and it's not Nightreign. Think of all those three combined together, then add a few more mechanics in that are very new. So like Elden Nightbloods Light, should we call it. It really doesn't have a genre that I can point it to, but it's basically a mixture of all of those together. Now, to add a little bit more value to this video, because I don't want it to just be a yap fest of what I think of the game, I will give you my initial character ranking, and we'll see if it changes. Now, of course, a lot of this will depend on your playstyle, and some of you may have different opinions on the characters, you know, than I do. But from my playtime so far, which is very limited, last place, mostly because I didn't click with him very well, I don't think he has any good matchups, is Senator Samir Petraeus. Next up, and could easily be in 6th place, is Bloodhound Jan. I just didn't click with him very well. He just didn't seem to me to have anything decent other than his fire, which is really obnoxious. But yeah, for me, next up, 5th place would be Bloodhound Jan. 4th place, I'd have to go with Trang Lan. Now, I do think she's a very good player, and I actually had my best run with Trang Lan. I think I had over like 110 virtue. But unfortunately, the matchups at the very end, which was Sniper Layla and the Bloodhound Jan, both of them were just spamming range, and because I had no like poise, I guess we'll call it in this game. I don't actually know what it's called in this game, but basically I just got staggered to death and I had no option of fighting them really. So that's why I would say she's 4th place. So far to me, just feels like she has terrible matchups all across the board. 3rd place is John Duskbloods Albert. Other than his LMG, which is basically just insane tracking, everything else just felt a bit meh. It just felt like, okay, that's cool, but he didn't really have anything special. Like, I feel like he probably is the character that has the high skill ceiling, and I think he will probably be most people's pick for PvP when people start, you know, generally getting serious with the PvP, because people will try hard, and I think you should. If you're playing a game like this and it's competitive, try hard a little bit, you might enjoy it. So yeah, for 3rd place, I think I'm going to go with Albert John Duskbloods. Now, these last two could easily be switched, but I think I'm going to go with 2nd place Sniper Layla. She's actually busted. Her shots do like basically half health. Close range, she has very fast melee attacks. And then obviously, of course, you can just use her skill to just disappear from your opponent and then go back to doing range, which takes out half their health. And I don't know if the kins are linked yet, but I had the same kin with her every time, and that is Valentus, the Unwise. Easily the best kin in the game from what I can see. It's just way overpowered. So this is why she could easily be top spot, but I think the first spot just takes it for me, and that is big man Zork, who's Zorking it. And if you want to know why he's in 1st place, this is the reason. No, for Zork, generally he just has a lot of HP, a lot of poise. All of his attacks, I think, have hyper armor. He has 2 good ranged options. So yeah, he just has everything. He is the character. If you aren't very good at PvP and you want a chance of winning, pick Zork, throw your R1s out there, throw your jumping attacks, throw your R2s. You got a good chance of beating everyone. The other thing is his kin. With all those things mentioned, you also have a kin. Again, if they're linked to each specific Bloodsworn, his kin basically just heals him. So you can hyper armor through things, you get your health back. He's just basically invincible. He's such a fun character to use. And I do think he will be carrying the FromSoftware meme community for a while. So, gamers, that is pretty much my initial thoughts on Duskbloods. Now remember, it's a network test. A lot of this can change, but so far, I am thoroughly impressed.